having and following your gut does not mean that you won't have doubt. It doesn't mean there won't be any emotional pain associated with that doubt. It doesn't mean there won't be confusion. Your gut feeling is just the direction that you're choosing to go, that is led from you and for you. Hello everybody and welcome back. Today I want to talk about our gut feeling and why it's so hard to listen to our gut feeling sometimes, and what we can do to get reconnected to that part of us that always knows what is right for us and that tends to punish us when we don't listen. So what is your gut feeling? A lot of people, myself included, used to be very confused about this. So your gut feeling is that inner knowing, that inner direction that is ever so quiet but very consistent about a particular topic or a particular decision that you have to make. If you need to make a decision, a job to take, a person to date, whatever that decision is, your gut feeling is the knowing that you have inside of you of what is right for you. The gut feeling is very quiet. It usually flashes across your mind as the first impression on a decision or a topic that you're trying to decide or think about. It's also very consistent. So it's not the loudest. It's not sometimes the most practical. It's not the most well-informed, because we typically make decisions and form viewpoints based on what we've experienced as information. Your gut feeling is something that comes out of nowhere that sometimes there seems to be no basis for. So anytime you have a decision to make, every time there is a problem at hand, your gut feeling is the quiet knowing that this is the right thing to do in this moment, right? Now, if you're like me, if you have a big decision to make, you have obviously the gut feeling and your gut direction about this, but also you have your devil's advocate mind. So this is the part of your mind that's rooted in logic. This part of you comes to the surface and tells you, but what about this? But what about this? If you've been working on yourself and you've been trying to improve yourself, then this part of your mind actually sounds very sensible. It gives you all the potential pitfalls, which are good to have, but it also starts to pull you into this direction of perfection. Like, this is the best thing to do objectively for everyone. When you go into this space, it can feel good because it aligns with everything you've been reading and you've been learning about, but your gut feeling will always be there saying, yes, but what about this? What about this? It's very dull but consistent. Now, a lot of people don't know how to listen to their gut feeling, and they don't know why that is. So a leading reason why people are not able to hear the gut feeling to even begin with is because they've been conditioned and schooled to ignore their gut feeling from the moment that they were kids, right? So if you observe a small child and a toddler, they say exactly what's on their mind. They tell you exactly how they're feeling. They ask questions when things don't feel right to them, and they challenge the adults when things don't add up, because your childhood is the most authentic phase of your humanity. You're still very much rooted to who you are and where you've come from. You're rooted to your being. And as you grow up, society, your parents are going to start to enforce their conditioning onto you as a child. And a lot of times, if you have parents that are maybe strict or that care a lot what other people think, they won't allow the child to express that natural inquisitive nature that they have about different topics that they are experiencing. They will tell the child, girls aren't supposed to speak this way, or boys aren't supposed to cry, or don't speak when you're not being spoken to. This was a big one for me growing up in an African household. Children are meant to be seen, not heard. You do what I tell you to do. These types of messaging over and over again over years eventually trains this child to not trust or listen to their own inner voice because it's always wrong. So if a child challenges a position that an adult has, rightfully so, because it doesn't make sense to their purer minds, and every time they do, they were met with emotional violence or even physical violence sometimes, and they were told, don't think that way, don't say things like that, you're not meant to be this way, you're not meant to act this way, you're not meant to say things this way. When that happens over and over again, the child actually eventually learns that I cannot trust my gut feeling. I can't trust my own position on anything. I have to conform to what my caregivers, my parents, or whoever's the adult around me says is true. And they have to do this because as a child, the child is the most vulnerable and most dependent on their parents or their caregivers. So if your parent, your main source of life and love, is challenging you and really upset with you as a child, then the ability for you to stand firm in your opinions, in your positions, in your direction, you have to give that up, because without this parent's love and affection, the child will literally die. They feel like they'll die physically because children need lots of love, not just food and shelter, but also love. So in environments where the child is not allowed to express their inner thoughts, their inner feelings, and trust themselves as they navigate through life, that child will always grow up to be an adult that doesn't have a clear access to their inner being and to their gut feeling. Right? Now, if you grew up in a household where sometimes you were allowed to, sometimes you were told not to speak a certain way or to think a certain way, but sometimes you were, or you had a particular aunt or a teacher or someone in your life that gave you license to be who you really are, and you found a way to cope or balance being who you are versus what's required of you socially. If this was your childhood where you've had this experience, then you tend to have some access to your gut feeling because it wasn't completely schooled out of you when you were younger. You have some access to, I don't think that's right, I'm going to go this way instead of the other way. Because as a child, it wasn't completely drum out of you to not listen or to go the opposite direction of your gut feeling. So if that's the case, then sometimes you have access to your gut feeling, sometimes you don't. Now, if you're on the third group, which is a child that had ambassadors for parents, and what I mean by ambassadors is your parents understood on a fundamental level that they can shape some behavior around perhaps boundaries or to keep you safe, but your human expression was something to be projected, was something to be celebrated. Your thoughts, your opinions, your unique quirks, all of these things are things to be celebrated about you. If you had parents that were able to do this for you, then you have way more access to your life. Not just your gut feeling, but your life. Because now you're led from the inside. You feel like this is the next right move for you to take, and there's no other option but to take it. Because from the moment you were born or from when you were very young, you were encouraged to trust your life. You were encouraged to listen to yourself and do what is right for you and not worry so much about what other people are going to think. So if you fall into this category, then access to your gut feeling is almost instinctual. You get into a position and immediately you feel something. You're like, oh, I don't feel right. I don't know what it is, but I don't want to go there. It's so instinctual for you. You know how to navigate different life experiences. Now, it doesn't mean that you won't have times where there's doubt. And I think we'll get to that in the next section. But you just have more access to your gut feeling. You have more access to your inner being and your inner guidance that is going to tell you what is right for you, and you'll know on a deeper level that yes, this is right for me, but not necessarily right for everybody else, but it's right for me and I have to honor that. So that is the benefit of your gut feeling. Your gut feeling is a unique set or sequence of wisdom and guidance and direction that is unique to your life experience. It doesn't always have to make sense to people around you. It doesn't always have to make sense to everybody else, but it will feel right for you. And what you'll find is the more you follow your gut feeling, the better your life actually becomes. And the reverse is also true. The more you ignore your gut feeling, the more trouble you get into and the worse off your life experience feels. There will be that misalignment on a deep level that I'm not living a life that is true to me, because along the way you've been ignoring or going in the opposite direction of your gut in your decision making through no fault of your own, right? Through things that have happened to you when you were much younger. But what's happened to us in the past, unfortunately, we didn't get to control, but how we act, how we show up in our future, that one is completely up to us now. If you're listening to this podcast, if you're listening or watching this YouTube video at the moment, then you are already at the forefront of reclaiming your consciousness and reclaiming your life. If you're here and this is interesting to you and you've made it this far into the podcast, then for sure you are looking for change. You're looking to improve, you're looking to evolve your consciousness. And as a result, you no longer get to subscribe to the things that have been conditioned to you in the past, as long as you're aware. Of course, there'll be moments where you fall back into old patterns, but the more work you do on yourself, the more mindfulness you incorporate into your life, the more presence you celebrate in your life, the quicker you'll be able to get out of these unconscious patterns that we can fall back into, and then choose how you want to show up in the world. So that's gut feeling. That's some of the history and the reason why people have different relationships to their gut feelings. Now, the next thing I want to talk about is this idea that your gut feeling is meant to be easy, it's meant to be smooth, it's meant to be confirmatory, it's meant to be satisfactory once you feel it and you go in that direction. And this is absolutely not true, because we are human after all, and we are living in a society where we are both consciously and subconsciously absorbing different viewpoints, different life experiences, different life outcomes. And even though we know the direction that's best for us, we still have this data in our mindscape that will be jiggled and disturbed, that will give us opportunity for contrast. What this means is when you have your direction, when you're trusting your gut and you're going in the direction of your gut, this doesn't mean that you won't have any doubt, any confusion, any pain. It doesn't mean that's going to be the case for you. So trusting your gut is just a deep knowing, very silent but consistent knowing that I think I should keep going in this direction. But because it's so silent and it's so dull at times, and you have all these other potential outcomes that you've experienced and absorbed, both through your life experience and other people's life experiences around you, your mind will create these other opportunities for contrast. And that's where doubts come from. So doubt is just basically your mind giving you alternative outcomes to what your gut is saying. And when you entertain these doubts, then it feels so uncomfortable. And that's how you know that there's misalignment. Because the more you get aligned with your truth and what is right for you, there's a sense of peace. It's like a mixture of discomfort, but there's peace. Peace is predominant. But the moment you choose to entertain thoughts of doubt, can I really do this? Is this possible for someone like me? Am I setting my goals too high? Am I being delusional? The moment you go into that route, you start to feel it immediately. You start to feel the discomfort of doubt. You know on a deep level, like, I shouldn't be thinking this way. But a lot of people don't have the mindfulness practice to change course once they've headed down the route of a particular thought. So once you start to entertain the thoughts of doubt and you can't get off that train, now you're in this spiral loop where you are now self-questioning yourself, you're doubting yourself, you're envisioning a future that you don't want for yourself. And the more you envision that future, the more likely that future is to come to you, right? So your gut feeling is not the end and be all. It's not the end goal. It's not your gut feeling is not your final stage where after you make that decision, there's bliss and everything else. No, your gut feeling is just the direction that you need to go, but the work doesn't end there. The work really begins once you start heading in that direction to how do I stay firmly in this direction and keep my mind concentrated enough that I don't indulge too much in these doubts that might come up. The doubts are going to be there whether you like it or not. Those negative what if loops, they are there whether you like it or not. Your mind, your brain is trying to keep you safe. It's trying to say, what do I know is a known outcome, where people, either yourself has been safe in the past or people that you know and have heard their stories also ended up being safe in. It will go look for those reference points and really make it very obvious for you to go in that direction, because that's what it thinks will keep you safe. But you are not just a human. You're a human being. Your being is who you really are. That's the seat of your consciousness where you observe the human from. And your being always knows what is right for you, because again, that being is timeless. That being is connected to that which knows all things. So it is our duty to figure out a way to work with our minds so that when the doubts come up, we don't go full throttle into that direction with no way of getting off that train. We acknowledge them for what they are. Doubts, it's your mind trying to keep you safe. It's your mind trying to minimize the pain of uncertainty that is almost guaranteed when you start to head into the unknown territories that your gut is pushing you into. This is all part of the process. See them for what they are, label them for what they are, which is just doubt. It is not the end of the world. You're going to be just fine. And give it the time it needs to dissipate while you continue to focus on your direction and learn everything you need to learn in that journey. So, yes, having and following your gut does not mean that you won't have doubt. It doesn't mean there won't be any emotional pain associated with that doubt. It doesn't mean there won't be no confusion. No, these are all part of the package. Your gut feeling is just the direction that you're choosing to go, that is led from you and for you, not for everybody else. No one's life is the same, but it's yours and yours alone, right? So, next, let's talk about people who do not have access to their gut feeling, where it's just mumbo jumbo up there. They have the gut feeling, but then they have 20 other thoughts in different directions, and it's all very overwhelming and very confusing. This is very common, and this is very normal if you've spent a lot of time not listening. You've just practiced not being present with your gut feeling. You've practiced not feeling in tuned and aligned with yourself, unfortunately, because you were unconscious. And by unconscious, I don't mean you were in a coma, just you were spiritually unconscious, which means you were not aware of yourself as the being. You were fully immersed in the story of the human, right? So now that you're here, again, if you're listening to this podcast, you must have some access to your being, because that's why we're here. If you're here now, you must now know that there is more to life than just thinking everything is happening to you and you're just this helpless human that's just been floated and tossed around and hoping that things just work out. No. Now you know that you're a human being. You are the being that is observing the show. You're the spiritual being having the human experience. And you have some agency in how your life turns out. You don't have complete control because you cannot control the world or what manifests outside of you completely. You are a co-creator of your experience and your reality, but you are a creator nonetheless. It's between you and life to mold and create the perfect reality and events and circumstances to help you grow. If it was just up to you to create your reality, you would create one where there's no struggle, there's no strife, there's no challenges. And where's the growth in that? So life has to also be creating with you so that there are opportunities for bliss and enjoyment, but there are also opportunities for challenges and opportunities to stretch you so that you can be more consciously and you can be a more evolved being. So if you don't have access to your gut feeling, nothing is wrong with you. You're not weird. It's very common and actually very normal these days to be in that state. So how do you find access to your gut feeling, right? So I have this saying that I always remind myself and my friends: anything that you do consistently, you get good at. Literally anything, both physically, both mentally, both emotionally. Anything that you do consistently, you become an expert at, right? So if you've got into this stage where you don't have access to your gut feeling, it just feels so chaotic in there, it's because, unfortunately, you've been practicing ignoring your gut feeling. And then because you've ignored it, you've been punished for it in life because things didn't go according to plan, and that caused you more pain and more confusion, and then you ignored it even more, and you put yourself in this loop, right? So knowing that this is the case and that's how you got here, the way out of it is just to do the opposite. Is practice listening, trying to find your gut feeling. Now, this practice, a lot of people wait for big life moments, like I need to buy a house, I need to get married, I need to figure out who to date, and then they want to check in with themselves. Of course, they won't have any access to any clear direction because they haven't practiced with the small things. They haven't practiced when the stakes are low. So the number one way to get access to your gut feeling is to practice with the things that don't mean that much right now. And what I mean by that is, what should I eat? What should I wear? How should I approach this email? Things that are where the stakes are low. Check in with yourself and say, how do I really want to show up in this email that I'm about to send? What do I really feel about this food that I want to eat right now? Do I feel good about eating this huge bar of chocolate in one sitting? Or is a part of me saying, tomorrow's another day, just eat a little bit and move on, right? Listen to the small voice for the small things in your life, the time you want to wake up. You're not going to get it right every time, but the more you listen, remember, anything you do consistently, you get good at. You become an expert. So do it for the small things. What shoe do I want to wear? What do I want to have for lunch? What do I really want to have for lunch? Is this good for me? Is this an act of self-love? Ask yourself this question for everything that you're about to choose. Is this an act of self-love or self-hatred? Right? Start with the small things. And what will happen is, over time, you'll get much better at picking and listening to your gut. And then that will build the muscle for more important things. And the thing about life is, the moment you set your intention in one direction, it will give you opportunities in that direction to practice what you've said you wanted for yourself. So if you say, I want to be more truthful, I want to be more honest, life will give you more opportunities where in the past you would have lied, but then you have to tell the truth. They will just keep coming, right? If you say, I want to be more open, I want to be more loving, life will serve you opportunities that will make you close. Opportunities where you might revert back to old patterns of closing around love. This is your chance to practice. Stay open, give love, give light, stay open. You can handle it. So same thing goes with your gut feeling. Keep asking yourself, what do I really want? Do I really want to do right this way? Do I really want to go to this friend's party? Do I really want to stay in tonight? Or do I really want to go out? Check in with yourself, listen, follow through, and find peace. Remember, it doesn't mean that there won't be confusion or devil's advocates coming up in your mind. Listen and find your peace. Choose something and practice being okay with it, no matter how it turns out. But it's come from inside of you. Be okay with it. You practice with the small things, and eventually an opportunity will come where you may have to practice with work. Do I really want to be doing this? Or do I want to go find something that brings me more joy and purpose? But because you've had practice with the small things, you now know and trust yourself, and you trust life, that any direction you go, things will work out for you because you're choosing. And then you can make a decision to pull the plug on the work that is stressing you out, or a relationship that is diminishing you. You get better at trusting your life once you've made a decision that only serves you. So you start with the small things, and eventually once you get the practice and you've lived, and it might take months, it might take years of consistent practice of choosing yourself and choosing love and choosing alignment, eventually you'll get to the point where you will then ask life, what is the reason for me being here? What is my purpose? Why am I on this planet? And now you'll have the space to hear it. That, I think I'm here to be a musician. I think I'm here to create art, to help marginalized communities, or to help women, or to help entrepreneurs. I don't know. But you're able to hear this again, dull but consistent voice, when you have learned and practiced listening to it and clearing the noise, right? So one of the benefits of also starting with the small things is you're also not just practicing choosing your gut feeling, but you're practicing quietening the noise that comes after you've chosen that direction that's right for you. All the doubts that come, you're going to practice through the small things to ignore them, or to reframe them, or to see them for what they are, just thoughts, and let them be. Let them come, let them go. There's no need to give them any power. This happens when you start with the small things. You learn to work with your doubts. Doubts are not something that you want to get rid of or that shouldn't be there. They're just part of the curse. They're just part of the journey of listening and choosing yourself. So you start with the small things, learn to listen to your gut feeling, but also learn how to manage and change your relationship with your doubts. And then you can start asking the much bigger questions of, where do I want to live? Who do I want to live with? What is my purpose on this planet? How can I be of service to life? All right? And you'll be able to hear it better and deal with all the doubts and thoughts that might come up once you start answering these questions. Okay? And the last thing I want to leave with you is an African proverb. The proverb goes, a thief does not rob an empty house. At first I was like, what? A thief doesn't rob an empty house? What does that have to do with me and my doubts? Basically what this means is that if you have doubts about something, if you're second guessing yourself, if there's lots of devil's advocate coming up, if there's lots of resistance internally about the decision you've made or the decision you're about to make, that you know is right for you, that's the qualifier. Because sometimes we might have resistance about a decision we're about to make. That resistance is your gut feeling saying, no, don't do that. But if you've identified that this is right for me, this is for my greatest good, this is to optimize or to save or to improve or maintain my well-being, and you've chosen to go in that direction, and now you feel any resistance or doubt, this is the thief trying to rob your home. Because the thing on the other side of that decision is going to be more. It's you, it's a bigger, more actualized version of yourself on the other side of that decision. But the resistance and the fear and the doubt, that's the thief. It knows that the house is full on the other side. So it's going to try and rob the house by not making you get there. But if you can stay lean on your practices, whether it be spirituality, religion, mindfulness, whatever it is that keeps you centered. You lean on those practices in these times of hard decisions and all the confusion and doubts that might come after that. You lean into yourself and trust your life. Then you'll get to the other side and see that your house is full, and the thief of doubt and self-questioning tried to rob it, but it didn't succeed. So I'll leave you with that as we end the episode. A thief doesn't rob an empty house. The more resistance, the more doubts you have, the bigger the outcome of your decision is, the better you will become as a result of this decision. Having said that, again, thank you so much for listening. Thank you for taking the time to grow with me. I hope this resonates with you somewhere deep and something in this episode rings true for you. If there are any questions, any comments, please feel free to leave them. And I would in the comment section of whichever platform you're listening to this on. And if you want to send me a direct message as well, please do that. But importantly, please share, like this content anywhere that you're listening to it. Please share this content on any platform that you're listening to it. And it helps me grow. It helps you grow. It also helps anybody else who needs to hear this also become more of themselves. Thank you so much for listening, and I will catch you on the next one. Bye.